This tape is meant to address the way the administration is covering for terrible crimes that they have committed by perniciously claiming that um, a person who didn't know something should have. I'm going to go and get a ledger of evidentiary material to support this presentation. When you are deaf, you cannot hear. It is not fair for someone who is an eccentric and talented musician to say that a deaf person should be able to hear when they are deaf. This is backed up by administration's claim that I went deaf from natural causes, and that if I didn't, it was self-inflicted deafness. They laugh at me as Van Gogh. They don't intend to ever make up their minds about which lie to tell because they have sold both lies by telling them both as gibber in Senegalese. So, what exactly was I accused of? Well, I was accused of not knowing what a president of the United States should have known. The Pitt News Society can very easily prove by timeline comparison of my articles of ritual dissent with Louis Lassman's editorials at Harper's Magazine that he was using Fluxus notation about me in his essays in those days, and he committed a terrible crime. He mimicked me. He claimed, what became of the president's census? President, why am I a stand-in for the president? Well, because they planted top secret information on me and because I came from George Bush's ship in the Navy. I'm supposed to know that? I didn't know anything about this. So what do they claim now? They claim that I should have known that a 12-year-old Israeli girl was going to um, call me her hero while hiring people to torture me and kill John Lennon. Well, it doesn't look to me like John Lennon was even really killed. Let's look at some of the evidence of what she wrote to me from Israel. Greg Carl says in his epistle about all this, which he denies is an epistle about all this, just as King Crimson denied their observation was set up with Ono and Attica State Prison. The dialectic is established at the outset between paranoia and poison, between torture and self-inflicted. Nearly killed me is a brutal attack on a deaf child. Swallow is what they insisted by the brutal attack he'd do. And by the miracle of Louis Lapham's learning, they said that swallow meant it was voluntary. Swallow means it's voluntary. Okay, very good. Now, they nearly killed me to make it voluntary. That's quite a draft board operation. I ask you, was this going on during the Vietnam War by any chance? It was. Were veterans and undesirable and dishonorable discharges involved? They were. Now, when we look at Double Fantasy, John Lennon's album, we see the word double, like body double, where double's there. And John Lennon uses stepping out in, Rocky stepped out and left the Texas school book. Yes, I'm stepping out. So they pulled a Houdini. And how do we know this? Well, for one thing, let's take a look at Akiko Wakabayashi. She starred with Sean Connery in the film You Only Live Twice. You Only Live Twice. That's very interesting because the theme in You Only Live Twice was about faking a real death, faking and making them believe that he was killed. And the script reads something about taking a dead man's identity. I Am the Walrus is a fusion of Casper the Friendly Ghost, Hitler in Argentina, and John Lennon stepping out, if you look at my other videos, to rule by the fourth dimension. And Akiko Wakabayashi appears in a film with look-alike of John Lennon back in 1966. 1966. So we see that the claims being made are highly suspicious ones, meant, as the script says, to be between just two people. Only two people need to know about it, he says in his script. Me and who do you mean? Me and who do you mean, double? Who do you mean? Me and Cersei Kennedy? Maybe is that who the postal office means? They say there's no way that any of this has any ulterior meaning. Queerball should be able to hear, and he has only himself to blame that he can't hear. Queerball should have been aware that a 12-year-old Jewish girl writing him kitty cards when he was a kitty was addressing him as a phantom president of the United States. Queerball should have known it. What became of the Queerball's senses, they asked, through the Fluxus psychology at the New York Kremlinopolis. Did Lewis Lapham pull a dirty doo-doo for his chum, Ronald Reagan? I believe he certainly did. And there's plenty of evidence like this in my storehouse. I didn't manufacture any of it. I wasn't expecting to find it. I realized what it was they were doing and slowly learned to look where their playbook was. I'm doing what Congress did when they got sick of it and went into the films of January 6th. I'm going into the films these arch enemies from the Axis made and records these arch enemies from the Axis made, and examining how these criminals in Hollywood can be identified for the purpose of legal prosecution of Hollywood. Wouldn't that be nice? The way they tear up the towns and they support Rambo, obliterating small towns, and then saying, "Oh, calm down, Sylvester, calm down. You're a great hero with Purple Heart." Question Hollywood. It's not supreme executive authority. They don't have the right to batter a 12-year-old and say, he's going to be playing president and put him up. He's our dummy president. He's our dummy president. And he's the arch liberal who's gonna pay for the sacred intelligence agency's espionage of the soul. Yeah, it's sacred. Japanese Fuhrer, the fourth dimension, has decreed. That's what they're pulling, and that's what the Beatles have done. That's who they are. That's their whole them. And all I'm doing is showing you the evidence for it. I'm not making anything up. I'm not hallucinating. I'm not promoting a cover for my misbehavior. Far from it. They poison me in the mouth over their hallucinations of having UW dialectical black psychology. And what's that? It's a white bearded assassin ripper murdering girl. That's black psychology. Ooh. boy, Cornel West is a smarty pants. I mean, what gives with these stupid people? What gives? That's all I'm asking. I mean, you don't answer me. Keep your answers to yourself because I don't want to know. I've seen what these brilliants think is real, and I don't care for it. And so the double fantasy is a farce. They pulled one, and that's how they pulled this whole shebang. And I don't believe that it becomes real because people believe it. I think Yoko Ono is getting people to chase their own tail by saying it's all John Lennon's revenge. It's all John Lennon's revenge. Revenge for what? Revenge for being for Lend Lease. I mean, it's a ridiculous maniacal presumption that the British have put off on the world's media and history, and they expect to pull it off because they think, oh, John Lennon was brilliant; he can do no wrong, and they fly Roger Waters and to Putin and say, look, we got to, knock heads and be smuggy with each other because if anybody for a minute believes queerball, people are going to start noticing what Hollywood did, and they might start prosecuting Hollywood and bring an end to the media operations that have dismantled public education in favor of the oil wars and the oil war rock machine of King Crimson and Kiss and all this other stuff that people do like this here to do like this here to. We're not going back to no agrarian society. No way. No, no, no way. Well, I'll get my Smith and Wesson before I go back to the agrarian side. You flower child, you're Aquarian, some sort of poor old little Jimmy Crook. The Aquarian, who could have saved John Lennon and didn't know he was president. Didn't realize that he was uh, deaf, but should be able to hear. Didn't hear because he put clay in his prick. That's one of the things that Donald Gruber, I mean, made up about me. He went around telling everybody Queerball put clay in his prick. Now appeased with fourth prawn because they lanced it. They lanced, the Parker brother machine come in for the dirty game of two versions. Lou Carl-esque idea. He pees with fourth prawn. Raised in two directions because they lanced it because he stuck clay in his prick. And this is Louis Lapham, formerly of Harper's Magazines, pontificating from the University of Pittsburgh. What became of the president's census? And they've been at it ever since, running Senegalese yammers through an impacted neuroplasm. And and they think they sit out here going, "We're brilliant, we're brilliant, we're brilliant. Don't mess with Seattle. Don't mess with Seattle."